Hello, everyone. Welcome to the field editing training lesson. This is going to be really fun. Dakar's here with me, and together we're going to break down field edits and show you all how it's possible to adjust things in the Valheim game world in a way that is compatible with vanilla game clients. Meaning you can make a customized Valheim experience that people can play on without requiring any mods. And who better to discuss this and teach us than one of the creators of the adventure map, which is probably the most well-known illustration of field editing. Back then, they had even more restrictions than we have these days, and they were still able to do a lot of really incredible stuff. So, do you want to take a moment and say hello, Dakar?
Hi everyone, hope everyone's having a good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And yeah, very excited to be joining JP on this little discussion and talk about fields.
And so we're going to show you a couple examples of things, and I've got some different scenes set up here. So I'll be able to go over here and show you the text that we use to adjust the fields. And I'll show you Dakar's perspective. So actually, while I do that, Dakar, can you start live sharing or screen sharing your Valheim in Discord so that I can switch to your
Sure.
perspective?
There should be shared.
Yeah, I gotta actually activate it. Awesome. One moment here. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, there we go. I gotta click watch stream. Of course. Nice. So now we'll be able to kind of look at Dakar's perspective. We'll be able to look at my perspective. And we'll be able to use the text here. But before I get too much into the lesson, or let Dakar start explaining things, I want to make sure that everyone knows about ValCon. ValCon is a fan-led community event once a year, all about Valheim. So if you want to make content, if you want to watch something, if you want to find a community to play with, if you want to learn more about modding, if you want to learn anything or do anything about Valheim, or just meet other people who love Valheim, ValCon is the place to be. You can find more about ValCon by going to the YouTube channel or val-con.org. You can find the links in the description of my video here, okay? And as I mentioned earlier, I'll be monitoring the chat. So throughout this, if you have a specific example of something you want us to explain or something that might be confusing, then just ask in the chat and I'll notice and I'll ask Dakar or I'll answer it myself. And so last, before we get started, I'll just say hello to those of you who have joined. So hello, Captain Crumbs and Rose, Conchanery, Cooties, Wolfenside. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Maker Mike. Glad to see you all here. And also, it's awesome, Rose, that you're here because Rose is the reason this is happening. In a previous live stream, she mentioned it would be great if we did a lesson on field edits. And here we are today, 2 weeks later, doing that lesson. So thank you for that, Rose. That was a great thing to point out because multiple people have reached out to me saying they're interested in learning more about this. So without further ado, let's hello Ulrich, welcome. Let's get into it. So why don't we start, Dakar, with kind of from your perspective. What is field edits? What is this stuff? Can you help kind of break it down from a beginning perspective?
Yeah, I can certainly try. So you might sort of think that all of Valheim is kind of controlled somewhere within the game itself. But actually, a lot of bits of data are in the objects themselves, in the creatures, in the things you build, in the rocks and trees. And we can change almost any of those values. Sometimes it won't work, but a lot of the time it does. And you can create some interesting and wacky things with them. So it can be as simple as changing the name of a creature. Obviously changing its level, things like that, but also how often it attacks or how resistant it is to lava. Certainly not everything about every single object is something you can change with fields, but a surprising amount is. And the great thing about it is once you learn how to do it once, it applies to every single object in the game. So, you get one bit of experience and learn, and everything transfers over. So you can not only change creatures, but portals and boats and carts and whatever else you like.
Yeah, there's quite literally, even like if you, for example, look at the tree in front of us, or any of the trees behind us, or the rocks, all of these individual objects have quite literally sometimes hundreds of fields. Maybe it's dozens. It really depends on how complicated the object is. For example, a skull, right? I could open my console here and spawn a skull 1. This skull is one of the more simple objects in the game. It doesn't have that many fields, right? Whereas if you take a build piece or a monster, I guess a monster is really the thing that has the most fields because they have velocities, speeds, the current movement speed, the maximums, hundreds of different fields. So I think it'll help them to carve. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to show them just really quickly what a dump of a monster looks like, because we want to make sure that they know that like every object has all these fields and we can mess with them. And right now fields is like a word we're explaining to them, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spawn a golem here. Golem. What is it again? Stone. Why can't I remember? Oh yeah, it's just stone golem. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. This guy's here. And what I'm going to do now is a special command called data dump. And then we're just going to name it something. So this is going to be lesson. All right. And so now I've taken a copy, essentially, of this golem's data. So he can run away. He can do whatever. Doesn't really concern us. Now, if I move my scene over here. There we go. Now we have all of these different tabs. Okay. And you can see all of the fields right here. This is all of the fields for the stone golem. So as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't exaggerating when I said that a monster may have hundreds of fields. They're split into integers, hashes, floats, strings, and some other things. We're not going to go into all the details of all the different data archetypes, and I'm not going to explain what all these different fields are. I just want to make sure that you all understand that when you play Valheim, this stuff is all already there. This isn't something that you need a mod to put there. It's already there. You just need a mod to kind of look at it. Make sense? All right.
Yeah, so lots of things that people are very familiar with already are fields. So creature level, creature health, piece level, workbench range, ward range, all these things that players kind of know and have a value set in their mind of are fields that will be like very familiar to them as soon as they see the name. Some fields in there are going to take some experimentation to work out exactly what they are, or maybe looking on Helloa's wiki or in the EWP Discord, because not everything is named in a super obvious way, but a lot of things are, and a lot of things you can work out just from experimenting, which will show you how to
Lee
do.
in lava. That one sounds pretty obvious, right? Hunt player.
Yeah.
Attack player objects.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of them are quite self-descriptive, as Dakar says. But then there's also a lot of kind of hidden secrets and tricks, and we'll show you some of these later. But sometimes you can create some cool outcome simply by making a value something it's not supposed to be. So there's a lot of flexibility. You don't have to stick within the original constraints of the field. Sometimes you can break the right field to get an outcome that you want or a behavior in the game. And this is something that Dakar and 9byte are really, really practiced with, because that's essentially how they made the adventure map. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you think that would help them, like, to understand how you used field edits to make the adventure map? Or do you think there's something else that we should move on to now, Dakar?
I think we can get to that because there's some things where, you know, it's multiple fields working together, or it's a field edit, but then it's combined with like a particular type of building. So we'll get to that for sure. But I think maybe we should show some simple examples, some common things, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds good. Well,
I guess one other thing to say is that you might have seen when JP pulled up his data, you would have seen like monster AI and humanoid and these types of words. These are what are called components, and you can almost think of them like a folder on your computer that these fields are stored in. It's not like really a folder, but it's just a categorization. So all creatures generally will have the monster AI component with all of the associated fields that go with that. And then all of the things that you build will have the piece component with all the piece fields, and the wear and tear component with all the wear and tear fields. So yeah, you can see as he's showing there's like the first part of it, the humanoid, the monster AI, things like that. That's what we call the component. And then the second part, where it's like the specific thing, whether it's avoiding lava or triggering player objects, this kind of thing, that's the actual field. But we can also refer to just like the whole thing as a field too.
so I think a good thing to do now, Dakar, would be I can share your screen on the stream now, and maybe you can show them just what a basic field edit is. Because I've found that when I try and explain EWP, one of the problems I encounter is that I have to tell people what data files are and what script files are, but really there's easier ways to work with the data. You don't really need to know about all the fields, right? You just need to know the name of one, and you can do what's called a field edit, which is probably a great thing to illustrate.
For sure. And that's, like you say, it's the great thing because you do it once for one thing and the same thing translates to all the others. So I can share that. So
Oh, one
um,
moment. I just realized I didn't tell them how we do this. So basically, in order to do what we're showing you, you have to use a mod made by Yair called World Edit Commands. This allows you to adjust the vanilla data values and save them in a vanilla format so that even though you're using a mod to adjust it, your changes will be compatible with players without the mod. And you can get rid of the mods afterwards, and the thing is going to stay there in the game. Does that sound accurate, Takar?
yeah, yeah.
Nice. Now, I just wanted to give that context. World edit commands is what you're about to see Dakar use. Now you can go on.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few different ways to do this. The way I advise you start with is with spawn object. So this is going to create a new object, a new creature or build piece or whatever it is you want with the field edits that you're going to apply. So we're going to start with spawn underscore object. And I apologize if the text is very small here whilst I'm typing in, but it should, once I've pressed enter, it should go into a much larger font so you can read it. So let's rename a skeleton. So we're going to put skeleton in. And I want you to notice as well, at the bottom of the screen here, it's bringing up suggestions. So you can use tabs. So right now I've just got Skelly if I press tab, it's going to autofill to skeleton because that was the next one. I can press tab again and go skeleton bow. So you can use this to like very quickly do stuff and get the correct spelling and formatting and all of that, which is important. So we've got spawn object space skeleton and then another space. And now this is where we're going to start our field editing. So the first thing, always F equals. That's the start of your field editing. And then you can see in this autocomplete underneath, it's already giving us suggestions. And these suggestions it's giving us are all the things that skeleton has. And this is the advantage of spawn object, which is why I say you should start this way, because now you can see what you need to pay attention to and what you don't.
So those are the components you mentioned earlier, right?
Exactly, yeah. These are like our folders that we can then explore. And I can even use tab at this stage. I hadn't even typed anything in, but I can press tab and I can just tab through them all. So this can be a great place to start. You're not even spawning anything in, but you can just say, I wonder what components the oven has or the battering ram. You know, you can do this and have a look through. But we're going to change the name, which is in humanoid. Now, I just know it's in humanoid, and that's the sort of thing you'll know after a while. But to start with, you might have to search around. So you choose one of them, put humanoid, and then we're going to do a comma. And after that comma, you can see now it's bringing up all the fields in humanoid. Once again, I can use tab.
Just to stop you for a moment, because I want to make sure everyone, including myself, understands what's happening. First off, let me adjust the stream real quick so I can zoom in a bunch and the actual thing you're doing looks bigger. Sorry, I know it looks all messy the way I'm doing this. But so now they see like a blurry but a zoomed in of that little text in the screen. So what Dakar's showing is how you can use a console command with world edit commands installed on your local client. And this console command allows you to spawn existing prefabs, in this case, skeleton. Then typing F equals allows you to browse through the components within that prefab, the skeleton. And then once you type comma, then you can look at all the individual fields that you can adjust. So that's what Dakar is doing now. He is adjusting the part after the comma, which is the fields. These are the source of the magic that we're focusing on.
Exactly. And you'll probably spend a lot of time going through these and going, ooh, I wonder what that does. Which is a lot of the fun, because you're going to find these, particularly the ones with long names that, you know, say something that you struggle to even imagine what it does. Those are very fun to experiment with. But, you know, we'll start simple, and we've got name here. So then once again, we found the thing we want. We're going to put another comma. And now you can see the autocomplete says text. Now, obviously, that means you put text here, and that's probably not too surprising given we're changing the name field. But just as an example, let me say acceleration, and there it's going to suggest decimal. So that means that it's expecting some kind of number, and it can be 1.0 or 1.1. You know, it can have a decimal. Whereas something like can swim is going to say true or false. So, you know, that's the autocomplete at the end is giving you, sometimes they're true or false. That's exactly what you should put. But sometimes it's going to say text. And you don't need to put text because you can put Bob. And at that point, we're done then. And so we just press enter. And now here we have our skeleton Bob. I'm not sure why a second one spawned. That's probably something to do with the Valheim server rules. But yeah, here we can see our editor skeleton Bob. And if you were to copy him with Infinity Hammer,
to zoom to the right level, so give me a moment.
Oh yeah, you're zoomed in still.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, now so here's the skeleton he was talking about, our friend, and his name.
Yeah, so we've now got skeleton Bob, and I've copied him onto my hammer, and you can see he is now also a Bob. So field edits that you make will easily copy over in blueprints, in area copies, and all that sort of stuff.
So let
And
me address something in the chat real quick.
Go ahead.
All right, so there's two things. First, a question from Mr. Bungles. Let me just zoom here a little bit better. There you go. I'll set up some pre-config so I don't have to do that next time, but it was important to show you guys the little text of those field edits, because that's what you see, and Dakar showed you how you can browse through them. So even if you don't know the field, you can kind of search through the prefab using tab to find a field to mess with. And oftentimes people enjoy that process because it's kind of like a discovering new things in Valheim, right?
Exactly.
Let me get to Mr. Bungle's question. So he said, if using Infinity Hammer, can you use hammer underscore object as the spawn method for like what you're doing with the field edit? Or
No, you can't.
Okay, easy answer there. So then the next one is from Mayo. And Mayo says, will this stream be about true vanilla fields, or will we touch on edits that require a server-side EWP installation also? So the purpose of this particular one is about the fields themselves. So we're not, I mean, if you want to ask us about EWP later on, I'm sure we'll probably want to answer it, and that's fine. But for now, let's focus on the actual field edits, because that's kind of like a rudimentary skill set that is necessary to then understand the actual scripting and server-side things as well. But in Mayo's case, Mayo has a lot of experience with the vanilla fields and everything. So I understand why, from your perspective, you want to learn more about the limits of EWP. So what we can do is later on, after we cover these, Dakar and I can like help articulate exactly what the limits of Expand World prefabs are when installed on a server, dealing with all of the vanilla data fields and everything. But for now, I can go back to Dakar. We've covered all the questions.
Okay. I mean, the very short answer to that is like EWP can kind of mess with anything, and you can sort of put whatever made up field you like into a creature or whatever. It just won't do anything without an EWP script to react to it or whatever it might be. But yeah, like JP says, we can illustrate that later. I was also leaving the console up here because it's very small whilst it's being typed in, but hopefully you can see the full command there now if you want to check that out. Spawn object skeleton, F equals, and then there's always three things. That's another easy thing to remember. You've got your component, your field, and then the actual number or the text or the decimal or whatever it might be at the end.
That's a good point. So I can show them the Sublime, the data, and Dakar was just saying how there's always three parts, right? So if you look here, you have the first part, the integer. Okay, this is like a number. It has to be a whole number. That's the easiest way to think about it. So like 1, 2, 3, not 0.1, right? And then you have the field, so to speak, and then you have its value. But in this case, it's a little bit confusing, isn't it, Dakar? Because when we look at the actual data, we don't see the components as their own thing. The components are sort of labeled fields, a collection of labeled fields in the data, right? So you might, if you're watching this, you might be a little bit confused sometimes because while it's true that in the actual game it goes prefab component field, when you actually look at the data, you don't see the component in its own place. It's kind of like fused with the name of that particular field.
Yeah.
So now I'm showing your screen again now.
But just for any like complete beginners, like there's a lot of stuff we're talking about here. You really don't need to understand a lot of it. You know, like as long as you can type in this kind of command and like find other things to mess with, you're already on the road. and it's just experimentation from there. Um, as always, you should probably do this in a new world that you don't care about in case you do mess anything up. You know, you don't want to break anything. So, yeah, always back up, always experiment in new worlds. But yeah, like the best advice is just to mess around with stuff. So we can look at other things, like let's say Portal. Oh no, we're doing it wrong. I need to actually put what we're spawning first. So
So while
look
you're
at
doing that, I'll
Portal.
answer a question from Miker. So Miker says, in
Sure.
Dakar's server, he used to talk about custom data. Is this the same thing as EWP? And so, just so you all understand, EWP is like if you use these things but can also make your own. It's kind of complicated though. So for now, we won't really get into the nuances between how the data retains its vanilla compatibility and all of those things. You can just imagine EWP as kind of like making actual mechanics and rules for the fields, whereas when you actually adjust the fields, you have to adjust existing game objects, if that makes sense. I don't know how to articulate that well.
Um, yeah, I suppose a lot of the times that when I was talking about my server custom data was in reference to the adventure map. So yeah, this is all of that. Like data and fields are pretty much interchangeable. It's just like which way you approach it from. So JP learned data first, so he's very used to looking at that format, whereas 9 and I learned fields first and then came over to data. So, but it's all the same, you know. Once you know one, like you'll pick up the other type very quickly. But yeah, as JP was kind of explaining, like with the adventure map stuff, we don't, because it's fully vanilla compatible, we don't have like an EWP running in the background to change things. We have to rely on the existing game reacting to the changes to the fields that we've made. Whereas with EWP, you can make like new rules for the game, and you can have your own fields that change under certain circumstances, and then EWP can react to those changes in whatever way you see fit. Um, that's kind of the biggest distinction, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think we can like really properly explain the constraints of EWP because it requires a lot of kind of like foundational knowledge of other things first. So but if you try and explain it, it seems confusing to people who don't understand all of the things that lead up to why EWP matters so much. But I would say that it's
Yeah.
like you got onto something there that I think does explain it pretty well, and that's that EWP allows you to add another reaction in the game that
Yeah.
isn't normally there, and that is huge. I won't elaborate on why that's huge, but it's incredible.
So I've just set up a little thing here. On the right hand side, we have a pair of portals that are completely normal. And as you can see, the portal reaction animation reacts the way that you would expect with portals. But the pair on the left that I've field edited, they're just on. That effect is not going away, you know, and like that's a very simple thing. Maybe it's not something you want. Maybe you never want this to come on. You can do that too. But this is just a simple illustration of one part of the portal field that you might want to
So
mess with. Maybe you want to use this for a
can you
build.
turn one of
Yeah,
them off to show them again?
yeah. Like do one with no activation range.
Or like show editing it, because I think I was kind of distracting them while you did the field edit. So they saw the
Yeah,
illustration that the ones on the right were off and the ones on the left were on, but I don't think they noticed how you caused that to happen.
sure, sure. So as before, we're starting with spawn object, and then the next is our prefab, our object. So we could do portal, portal stone, portal wood. We'll use this goofy console portal for now. And then same as before, F equals. Now, this one you've got to do a little bit of figuring out as to where are the things that make a portal a portal. And we can tab through them all. And we've got teleport world and teleport world trigger. I mean, that sounds pretty promising for a portal type thing. And yeah, that's where they are. So you can see there's only a few in here: activation range, exit distance, allow all items, tag, and tag author. Some of those are pretty self-explanatory. Allow all items. So, and true. So you could make a normal wood portal allow through metals, or you can make a fancy stone portal not allow through metals. You know, something pretty simple, but there's the option there for you. But the one I was using here is activation range. And it's not going to tell you this. Sometimes you got to figure this out, but it's a range in meters. Now, that's probably the first thing you guess. It's not too bad, but sometimes like the number is going to be confusing. Time is not always seconds, for example. So we can put activation range 0 here. And now if I copy this and I connect it up, you can see it says connected and it works.
But no glow.
But there's no animation, no portal glow. So you can kind of use this to hide portals if you want to. You know, maybe you're going to obscure it all with banners or vines or something, or make it fully invisible, which is something we can get
yeah, why don't we show
later.
them that? Yeah, that sounds like a good transition into that. Cooties also showed that in the previous thing as well.
Oh, excellent. So invisibility is one of the massive things we made use of in the adventure map, because there were lots of things that we didn't want the player to see, or we needed to hide for various reasons. And there are things like portals that you can make invisible, but then the glow is going to give away that there's a portal there as soon as the player gets near it. So you also need to turn off the glow. So some mechanics you might want to make are going to require multiple field editors. However, the invisibility is one of the things JP was mentioning earlier that is achieved by putting the wrong thing in a field. This is like a little bit more advanced, but I mean, we're essentially breaking the game in a way.
To be honest, from their perspective, they just see you do a console command and then something happens. So I don't know if it's any more or less advanced, because from their perspective, they don't necessarily see the console command. You just do one thing, and then the behavior of the game object changes. So for them, it's kind of like, oh, now where can we learn all these commands? But how do we answer that question? Because it's not like there's one command to learn, right? You're not using commands. You're learning what the actual behavior of the field in the actual game is, and using your knowledge of that to adjust it to do something you want, right? So I don't know how to just tell them where all the stuff is, because the game is all the stuff, you know?
Yeah, this is almost like we're getting to level 2 now, because like level 1 is changing anything with fields normally, you know, something like the game intended, or even not really. Actually, let me show one thing first before we do the invisibility. So because everything has all of the fields of all components, it often means that objects can have behaviors that you wouldn't expect. So everyone knows about like blobs, tar blobs, the poison blobs from the swamp, and the way they jump around and everything. That jumping behavior is part of all the creature fields. So something that doesn't jump normally, like skeleton, for example, again, we can make jump. So we have jump interval here. I can set it to 1 second. And now he should start jumping.
You might have to like punch him or something.
It says, yeah. Oh, there we go. He's off.
That's funny.
And we can use even more fields to change how high he jumps. I think this is where experimentation comes in. I think the jump force is in humanoid, so it's in a different category, which is a little bit strange. But you figure these things out through exploration. There he goes. Oh, he's gone. maybe 100 was a bit too high. he's gone into orbit. Oh no, is that him or is that the original Bob? Okay, maybe we'll try 10.
And so what
Maybe
you're
10 is
seeing
too
right
low.
now is just one existing field. There are quite literally hundreds, and it's not just like hundreds of yes or no's. It's hundreds of things that can influence one another in certain situations. So it's impossible to really articulate all the things you can do because there are so many things that act upon other things to create sort of emergent behaviors that you might not expect, right? So you can make monsters just keep attacking without stopping. You can adjust how far they run around in a circle from the player. You can fine tune where their spawn point is and make them kind of change their spawn point in the middle of fighting so they like go off somewhere else if you don't kill them. There's all sorts of crazy things that you can do, and I'm really glad to be part of this and have Dakar here to break it down because he's one of the most experienced people out there at the moment with these kind of things.
Yeah, one of the really fun things with this is you will often find some like crazy edit that you can do, putting some like number somewhere or changing whatever, and it makes something wild. And then you're on to the next step of, okay, well, how do I use this? How do I make this into a mechanic or make a build with this item that I've now like configured in a certain way or whatever it might be. That's the really fun stage because sometimes you just come up with something really goofy like a skeleton who keeps jumping into space, but it's then another challenge of how do I make something out of this? And sometimes you won't have an answer straight away, and then you'll discover something else you can mess with, and suddenly those two jigsaw pieces fit together, and you're like, okay, now I've got a game mechanic. As that guy keeps jumping up. He's
a great
probably
one
going
to
keep
demonstrate. It's hilarious.
But yes, the invisibility. So, as you'll be well familiar, there are like multiple states of objects for almost all the build pieces, and they are referred to not there's always a big asterisk next to everything of like there's always an exception to every rule, but we'll just ignore that for now. They are like referred to as like new, worn, and broken, or sometimes it's called damaged. Again, there's one of the asterisks. But so there's these three states, right? So what we're doing for invisibility is we're telling the data when it's trying to look for like one of these states, we're telling it to look for the wrong thing. So it's trying to display its like correct state, but because we've messed with the field, it can't find it. So it doesn't know what to put there. So it puts nothing there. It's invisible. So what does that look like? So actually, right now would be a good way to show you one of the other ways of applying fields. So before now, we've been doing spawn object, right? But that makes a new object. What if you want to change something
So
that already
you just
exists?
want to edit what's
like
in front
portal?
of you.
Exactly. So for that, we're just doing object and then F equals. Now, the reason why I said this is not the way to start is because you can look at the autocomplete here, the tab, and you can see it has every single component. All of these and 237 more.
Very overwhelming.
Yeah, you need to know what it already is that you're editing to do this step.
So just let me break that down so they understand what you just articulated. Basically, what we did earlier is Dakar showed us how to spawn a skeleton that had a field already adjusted as it spawns for the first time, essentially. Whereas now what's happening is he's looking at an object that's already in the game world and kind of opening it up to adjust something, but not spawning a new object. So this is kind of like more surgery, more surgical. You open it up, but it's already there. And so what Dakar just explained is that this way is a bit more complicated because it's harder to browse through the fields because you get to see every possible field that you can edit, right? So this is kind of better to do after you've gotten a bit comfortable using the previous method, which spawns the object with the field adjusted in the first place.
Yeah, the autocomplete's really going to help guide you with spawn object. It's just like the best way to get familiar with everything, and just let the autocomplete help you out. But yeah, here we're going to edit it directly. So all of those things with like damage type stuff are in wear and tear. So again, comma, and you can see the first things there in the autocomplete are the things I was talking about: new, worn, and broken. So these are what it's looking for. So I'm just going to put new in here, and then the autocomplete here is its list of suggestions is every single prefab in the entire game, which is why it's like 236. None of these are correct. Like the actual correct value is in 99% of cases new. In some cases it's not. You're not going to need to know that like really ever, because the purpose of this is breaking the fields, like putting the wrong thing in there. Now this one does come with like a bit of an asterisk. Through our like group collective experimentation, it seems the best practice is to put some sort of FX in there. So I just by habit use VFX Odin despawn. You can use VFX spawn. You can really use like any VFX. I don't think we know fully for certain
a valid
why.
Existing one. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it does have to be something that does have a name. But yeah, so you can take this exact example, and we do that, and hey presto, it's gone. And we can still see it's there because we can edit the tag. We can see this hover text, and it has collision. If I can maybe kind of see, yeah, you can see my feet there walking up onto it. Yeah. But yeah, it's invisible, and because we made the glow turn off, you can't see it at all. Now we could.
Yeah, they would see the glow because the glow's separate from like the prefab, right? Yeah. And so now that you all see that Dakar is doing these field edits, I'll just switch to my perspective to show you that because we're on the same server, Dakar can like do these changes, and then they get applied to me as well, if that makes sense, because like I don't know when exactly it happens in the timing of it, Dakar, but like let's say you make something invisible. How? Yeah, it's immediate, isn't? Yeah, so even though I'm looking at my client, right? Dakar did the field edit, but I now see the floating portal without its frame. That looks super cool.
So the thing, yeah, it's this is, you know, like we've kind of demonstrated and talked about like all the different combos here. You can have portal that never shows. We can have invisible portal that never shows, so that you can make something else be the portal, or you can have portal that's invisible but it does show the ring, and now we have like a magical type portal, you know, that we can suspend off the ground and it doesn't look silly, or whatever you want to do with it. But the thing you were just mentioning there with like when it shows up and that sort of stuff, Nineby and I had a lot of issues with this because a lot of it is down to zone owner. So if I go over to this one here and I make the same edit, Has it turned invisible for you?
No, it hasn't. So that's because
Yeah. So I've changed it, and
one second. Let me
yeah.
switch to
So for
your
some,
view so they can see that. So here's my view, and Dakar changed it, right? And then if I switch to Dakar's view, he's looking at that same portal, but it's not there. And so now he's explaining
yeah,
why it is that that happens.
yeah. So it's. I mean, I don't know the sort of full reason why it happens, but we've learned to be like very careful around doing stuff around like each other. If we're both in the same place, both doing edits and this type of stuff, um, it can sometimes be that, like, for example, if you were the zone owner, I came here and did an edit, and then I went away, the edit wouldn't sort of stay because,
Yeah, or
like,
it gets fused with something you did or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah, because the
yeah.
server has two adjustments made, updated from two separate clients, so to speak, right? So it has to figure that out, and maybe sometimes it fails.
I think it's a bit like the difference between data inject and true and false. You know, like
Ah,
I've sort
yeah,
of data
yeah,
injected true on this, but because like only the server cares about that, you as the zone host haven't received any of that, so it doesn't
yeah.
stay.
I guess
So
so. So
long
let's
story
see.
short,
If
putting
I
all
just
that
log
like
out real
complicated.
quick. Go on, sorry.
Yeah,
I
let
want
me
to see if
yeah,
it makes
we
it
can do the
update.
experiment. I'll go away, but yeah, I was gonna say what we found the best practice is always like pick it up and put it down with the hammer after you've done any edits. Just like pick it up and put it back down again. That will like secure it. You know, make everyone in the zone have the same information.
That makes
Um,
sense. So I'll ask you to re-explain that in a second because I was showing them my screen
for
logged
sure.
out and now I'm logging back in.
That caused us a lot of confusion in the beginning because you know the thing like edits we made would sort of disappear and you know would be like, I did this. Did you change it back? Did you delete what I've done, bro? You know, like,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
yeah,
it
not
worked.
really
It
like
worked,
that,
but
but
I lost God and I died. But the
oh,
portal was now invisible when I saw it. I
okay.
caught it right out of
Well,
the corner of
it
my
might
eye.
have been that I was the zone host because I think I was here first and
You
then you
were first,
teleported to
yeah.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um,
So that
but yeah,
explains
that's
why you made it work earlier, because you're in the habit of, after you make a field edit, to just replace it. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah.
So now I can move to you. Okay, now I'm showing your screen. Do you want to explain again? Because I was like distracting them when you explained that earlier.
Sure. So I'll do it on this one too. I'll do what we did here. This is what we did. Object wear and tear, and then we're changing what it's looking for new, and we're putting a VFX in. And you can see on my screen straight away it's invisible. But I'm guessing for JP it's not.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what I would do is I would get my hammer, get the pipettes, and just pick it up and put it down. I can use like left control. I'm holding down left control now, so it's just frozen in the same place. And now I don't have to worry about putting it down exactly where it was. And click again, and now it should be invisible for JP as well.
So currently it is still there.
Oh, well that's fun. Let
Oh,
me
now
try
it's
again.
invisible.
Make sure. Oh.
Oh, interesting. So the moment you, yeah, the moment your character pulled out the hoe, it became invisible. So I don't know what you were doing at that exact moment, because I wasn't looking at your screen.
Oh. I'm just watching the stream now. It's slightly delayed. Maybe I see it from your point of view. Oh, yeah, they kind of look weird, but you can kind of see what we're talking about there. Like, it's always. Oh, I think there were two portals here because I just destroyed one and it's
Ah,
still
that makes
there.
sense. Yeah, so it edited the other one.
Um, damn, there was one other thing I was gonna say and it's gone.
I can cover a question real quick while you recollect your thoughts,
Go for
Dakar.
it.
So
I'll
Cooties
try.
asks, does undo and redo work if you're using Infinity Hammer? For I think they're asking about if you did like a
Yes.
field edit.
Yes, it should do. What can I show that's obvious? I mean, we can do it with a name again.
Oh, sorry. Is there something doubling in the audio? Just I'm trying to tell. Are you guys talking about the chat being there twice? Because I just got rid of that. Or were you talking about hearing one of us twice? Just confirm if you can. Well, I guess it's okay because no one said anything. So it looks like, okay, someone else had like 2 streams up. I see, that makes sense. Welcome, Half Nate, welcome. And while I'm here, welcome to the people who are currently chatting. So Half Nate, Aaron, Shawsome, Fire, Cooties. Awesome. Okay, so basically there's no problems, and I just thought there were problems. That sounds pretty normal. Alright, the card's back on
Yeah,
you.
you can use Infinity Hammer, undo, redo. I think there's something on the Valcon server with like the mob deletion type stuff that's
Yeah, that's
interfering.
adjusting it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if I undo, this guy goes back to Steve. And then if I redo, you should go back to Bob. But another one spawns, I think, because of that.
Yeah, it's because when you... that's actually something good to mention them, actually. Because when you adjust data on a server, it basically remakes the monster. So that can trigger a script that has a type create for that monster. So what Dakar's showing, basically, is that I have some scripts on the server, because we're on the free build server, where when a skeleton is spawned, it like makes an extra one sometimes. But because of that, when he does an edit on a skeleton in a certain way that causes a creation of a skeleton, it can trigger that, and that's causing some confusions.
Yeah.
I often encounter that on Enigma, actually, because Enigma has things to automatically make the storage bigger. And so basically I'll try and like make a chest and adjust it with a data load, and then it'll just overwrite my data load immediately by making it into the default bigger chest, right? So that happens all the time.
That's another one that is an easy one to change. Almost everything that you can put items in has the container component. And within that, it's not number of slots or something like that. It's heights and width, which is, how many columns and rows of storage you have. So that's the same for your wood chests, your black metal chests, but also things like ship that have storage in them. I think it's actually different for Incinerator, isn't it? Is the storage of Incinerator its own thing, or is that... I mean, we can find out.
Yeah, we can find out, right?
Through the magic of...
We can both do the... So, well, if you want to look at the Incinerator thing, what I'll do is I'll just show them what the container field is, and like kind of the basics of a data dump. So, what Dakar's been showing so far is how you do like in-game field edits, and as he mentioned, this is kind of his and 9byte's specialty. It's what they started with, and then they learned about EWP and data and these things later. From my perspective, I'm learning more about field edits right now, but I'm more familiar with another kind of data. So basically, here, let me just make sure I have debug mode on here. So what Dakar was talking about is the container values, or the container component, which has fields, container width and container height. But there's another way to look at all the data. As you've seen so far, we can look at the fields in-game, kind of one by one, and browse through them. But then there's also this other command, and this is something I have tutorials about showing people how to use. It's called a data dump. So what this does is it's going to look at the prefab you're looking at, and it's going to spit out almost all of its fields. It doesn't actually show you everything, but it shows you almost everything. You can think of it as everything. So we're going to just call this fine wood chest here. Okay, we have our data dump. It tells us the name, and it's saved. All right, good. So now what I can do is I can actually just switch over here to our data file. And if I scroll down to the bottom of it, I'll find our entry that we just named fine wood chest. And so in here, you can see the container height and container width. So this is what Dakar was just talking about. If you want to make something bigger or smaller, you can adjust these. But unfortunately, if I try to right now, like if I try and make this 3 by 3, right? And then I go data, load, equals, fine wood chest, right? It's not going to work because I have a script that notices the creation of a fine wood chest and makes it bigger. So I made the change, but then the server saw it as a new thing and then reapplied a script to it. So that's what I was trying to explain can happen, but it's kind of like a kind of niche situation there. So it's not really something to worry too much about. But as you can see, even if I do the data load, right, it's still the same. Even though I'm applying the data to make it a smaller chest, the server sees that and overrides it and treats it as if it's a newly created object. So this is just an important thing to keep in mind because you're going to get confused sometimes when you're working specifically on a server. Do you know if this happens in single player, Dakar?
I don't know, actually.
I feel like it doesn't, and that's one of the things that's confusing about working on the server is that there's like a little bit of a delay, so it causes things to be treated slightly differently, but I don't know, because again, I started working on the server and then went backwards to work in single player, but most of the time it's best to do the opposite, right?
I think it does happen in single player. The only instance I can think of where it's happening to me is I have a script that just removes fish when they're created, and every now and again I like try and spawn one to put on an item stand or something, and it just vanishes. I'm like, oh yeah. I can't remember who. It might even be someone in this chat, but I remember seeing someone complaining about like building off the edge of the world and being annoyed by fish. And I totally feel your pain, which is exactly why I have that script, because so often you're out there like intentionally in somewhere away from everything, doing a big area copy, and you end up picking up a load of fish, and it's very annoying.
Coral cod.
But is anyone in the chat any beginners who have any questions, confused about anything? Would like a different kind of example, give us a piece to sort of show something with or ask about.
So
otherwise,
Aaron's
go ahead.
A question, but it's about something else basically. So we can kind of talk a little bit about this while we give other people a chance to ask. But so Aaron's explains that he's tried following the scripting series that I've made on YouTube, but he's struggling to get EWP to work in the first place, it seems.
Okay.
So I don't think we can really help answer that at the moment because we need more kind of like context. But Aaron, if you want to message me in Discord, I can help you out later because there's probably just like one little thing that's in the wrong place that's causing the whole program to like not load or not work, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And again, just for clarity, everything you're seeing here is vanilla compatible, but you have to use the world edit commands mod in order to use these commands. So that can confuse people a lot because they hear vanilla and then they're like, no, vanilla's no mods, but it's more like what the end result is. You use the mod, but as long as the end result can be loaded without a mod, then it's vanilla compatible. Make sense?
Yeah. yeah, you can kind of think of this as like you're just making micro adjustments to decisions that the devs have already made. You know, they say a skeleton should have 120 health, but what if it had 150 health? You know, let's go wild. Um, but you can't put a fancy, suit of armor on a skeleton that you've modded in from somewhere else and then it be vanilla compatible. Like
Yeah.
these are anything that kind of exists in the game already that is a field. Again, not everything is something you can change with fields, but almost all of that stuff, you don't need a mod for it to work. So yeah, like JP says, we need a mod to actually to change these fields. But once we've done all the work, you can ship the map off to someone who has no mods installed, or put it on the server with no mod requirements, and away you go. Which is the really great thing.
So Fire has been asking Dakar about auto jump ledge. Do you want to humor him? I think that's a great example because it's
Okay.
very obvious, right?
So this is for ladders. So we can use any ladder because, like we've been showing, like you can think of components and fields as like how something works. So everything that works in that way has the same fields. And for ladder, it's not called something like ladder, like you would expect. It's called auto jump ledge. You might also wonder why there's 3 of them. That's because there's 3 steps on the ladder that make you jump, which is really
Ah,
silly.
that's
You'll see the
hilarious.
same thing with like boats, where they'll have multiple chair components. There's probably some other things too, but those are the 2 that I always makes me laugh. And then in auto jump ledge, we have forward only, which is going to be a true or false. Forward only, true or false. And then we have up vel and forward vel. Vel being velocity. Now, this takes a lot of experimenting with to get the actual results you want, which is definitely where using the object edit version comes in, because it's a lot easier to like micro tweak something to change the values that way. But if we just guess, and we're going to do forward vel 10, and this is a good example to also show how you do multiple fields in the same thing. And it's dead simple. You just leave a space, and then you do a new f equals.
Oh,
So
someone asked
we're
that
now doing
earlier. So I'll let me
perfect.
just re-elaborate what you said. So far we've shown how to do individual field edits, like how to edit one field at a time of an object you're spawning. But Dakar just pointed out that you can actually just keep stacking many of them in the same command. And to do so, after you finish your edit, which will start with f equals, and then it'll have usually 2 commas in it, and then end in the value, you do space, and then you just start a new edit. So right now, he's showing that there are 2 edits, and he's changing the forward velocity to 10, and then also the up velocity currently to 20.
Exactly. Um, and this is where it's doing field edits like this is a great way to experiment, to discover stuff, to test things out. But then once you get into more complicated things or more extensive changes, you might want to move to data, because it's a lot easier to handle 20 different changes that you might make to a creature. You might be changing its health, its name, its walk speed, its run speed, its turn speed, its immunity to lava, whether it can swim. You might be changing all these different things, and it's just way easier to manage in a data file rather than 20 different sentences of f equals. But we'll spawn our ladder. Here we go. And you can see as soon as we walk into it, we get boosted way higher than normally. This is also like doing field edits is a great way to sort of passively learn about how things work in Valheim, because probably never like really deeply thought about how the ladder works. But then when you see the component is called auto jump ledge, it kind of makes sense because you automatically jump when you walk into the ledge, right? You know? And then it gives you a certain amount of velocity, a certain amount of upwards velocity and forwards velocity.
This one's
So
hilarious.
yeah, this is a great fun one to use. And then, of course, as I was talking about earlier, the next step comes into, okay, well, how do we make this into something usable? So what I like to do is using the nudge part of Infinity Hammer, I've shoved it down into the ground here, so only the top step is visible. And this might take a little bit of experimenting because you might put it too deep at first, so it's not high enough for the player to actually touch. But at this point, it's basically the ground, and you can use the tricks from earlier. We can make this invisible. F equals wear and tear. New VFX, whatever. Put in my favorite Odin, and then
Death trap.
pick it up and put it down. Oh, it's not gone invisible.
So, is it just players that are affected by that, or is it also mobs? Someone asked if they can make a chicken cannon.
Oh, I've never tried it with a chicken, but they should. Can I get? I need a melee guy. Come chase me. Oh, I put it too low. That's an example of putting it too low.
Whenever I see screen shake, I immediately think of you, Dakar.
Well, from various.
I don't know why, but yeah, you really enjoy screen shake. I find it very jarring.
It is when you've got one health and a mob is hitting you. That is very jarring. Now I'm trying to get him to run onto this ladder. Right, yes, now come. No.
Oh, that's smart. I remember this so this is how you made that locks ramp, right? Or that's how Rocka made it?
Yes.
I remember this now, yeah.
There we go. Whee!
That's hilarious. And so I guess he vanished.
And yeah, this is what I was saying. Like with fine tuning, there's the two numbers together, the up vel and the forward vel. They kind of combine together. So if you put like up vel 20, forward vel 0, you will still go a bit forwards. Like it's not sort of 1-to-1 as you would. Oh, he's not in God mode.
No, I just wanted to show them that it.
Okay.
Go on. Sorry, I wasn't trying to distract you. I was trying to be entertaining.
There's some other little, like, if you are really interested in playing with this, there's some other little things to know. Like, maybe I can demo it now. If I just full hold W over this, you kind of see how far I go. I'm landing before the ice. Do it again. Oh no, that time I sprinted. Let me do it with just run without sprint. Now I'm holding W the whole time and I'm landing like just before the ice, right? But if I run at it the same way and then I try and stop my inputs right as I take off, there you can see I went like higher and further. It's because like when the player is in the air and they do an input, they get capped to a certain speed. Whereas the ladder can actually give you like a lot more speed than that. And you can see it more clearly if you put a much stronger ladder in. Like, let me do a 40-20.
And so I'll answer one of the questions while you're setting that up. So Adam asked, what's the difference between scripting and field commands? And a couple of people have mentioned this in the chat, so I just want to make sure people watching kind of understand. EWP uses all of this stuff but it's like you write new rules for how it's used. So it's more complicated. But in general, field edits are changing data in the game, but nothing else. So everything we're showing you so far is just working with a field the data already reacts to, or the game already reacts to in some way. So when Dakar changed the jump height for these ledges, the game knows, okay, when the character is near the ledge and it steps on it, apply a jump to the character based on this field in the object. So you're not adding a new reaction. The reactions are all baked. They're the same. They're stuck the way they are with field edits. You're just adjusting the thing the reaction happens to, okay? Scripting is when you add new reactions to these fields. So you can be a master of field editing and do a bunch of field editing and do all of the adventure map stuff without any scripting. I just want to make that clear that EWP is scripting, but what we're currently showing is really just adjusting data and relying on the knowledge you have of how Valheim reacts to that adjusted data.
Yeah, exactly. Just to clarify as well, everything in the adventure map is field edits. There's no scripts going on there, whereas things like JP's server, that's a lot of scripts going on, in combination with field edits as well. But yeah, a lot of scripts. So, like this, like he says, the ladder already makes you jump. That's what it does. But we've just changed how much it makes you jump. But if I wanted the message to come up on the screen that said, JP Valheim is going to the moon when he steps on the ladder, then I'm going to need, because that's not something that already exists in the game.
I'm trying to think. There's probably a... Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's a script. I can react to the command help, right? Oh, no. Did I take the help commands out? I think I did. I'm trying to think of a command in the game right now that makes a script happen, because we're on a server that has a bunch of scripts. I just don't remember which ones are enabled, so I guess it doesn't work that way. Oh no, I know a good example. Okay, so here I can take the chest, right? So let me switch over real quick. All right, so just to really make sure you all understand this, we've been adjusting the fields, right? So you can open up the chest and you can adjust its width and its height. But if you notice, if you've played a lot of Valheim, this is bigger than the fine wood chest. This is the size of the black metal chest, right? But how is that possible? Because, like, let's say, for example, I take... Oh, do I have God mode on? I hope I do. Yeah, I do. Okay. If I take this normal chest, for example, and I build it, right? So let's make sure I can build things here. There we go. Now we have a wooden chest, but we open it, and it has more inventory. How is this happening? Well, here you have two things going on. You have the data and the field editing, but then you have a script triggering and applying that change. So what's happening is that the actual files, I can show you real quick. Give me a moment here. So now what I'm doing is I'm finding the... One second. What is the data for this? Spawn. It's piece chest. Is that right? Yeah, piece... Oh, no. Piece chest is the fine wood chest. Yeah, I see. What's the normal one again? Piece chest wood. Yeah, there we go. Wood, yeah. Piece chest wood. All right. So, yeah, I deleted that, so that's not going to work anyway. Okay, so basically what's happening here is that there is some data on the server, okay? Let's imagine it's this data. It's not really. And then there's also a script on the server, and the script is like this. It's like prefab piece, chest, wood, or wooden, or whatever it is, type, create, and then data, and then let's say it's this, okay? So these aren't in the same file. This is a data, so it's in a data file, and this is a prefab script, which would be in a prefab file. You wouldn't see them in the same place like this, but this is what's happening on a server. You have the data, and then you have the script. So the script is noticing, okay, a wooden chest got created, and now I'm going to apply the data that is labeled fine wood chest. So when I actually go in game, right, and I make a normal wooden chest, it's immediately replaced with a wooden chest that has a bigger inventory than normal, right? So that's the most obvious thing that happens on this server. Like, you have the barrel here, but then look at it, it says expanded barrel. And that's using these fields that Dakar has talked about. Not only does it make the barrel bigger, but you can actually show whatever text you want inside the container, and it also shows up here. And these are all things that you can adjust with fields, but you can't apply them organically. So I guess that's a good way to imagine the scripts. When you're doing field edits, you as an individual have to go around and adjust the thing yourself, okay? When you're using scripts, you kind of turn the server into the thing that makes the adjustments. I know that's kind of heady. It's a little hard to wrap the head around that, but scripts are the server reacting. That's what it revolves around. So it really starts, like, ideally you start with an understanding of data, because then once you understand all the different data and the way the game reacts to it, then you can start making your own reactions, and you're going to do a better job because you know what's already in the game. So you don't need to make a new script for pathfinding for the monster that resets its spawn point over and over again, because monsters already have pretty effective pathfinding in Valheim. So all you have to do is change its home spot, and it will pathfind back there, provided it's not in combat, right? So you can't really, at the end of the day, get around the fact that you just have to learn Valheim in a deeper way when you start doing this kind of scripting or this kind of data management. You could have played Valheim for thousands of hours as a normal player, but you won't know all these little fields, you won't know the names. That being said, you will have a huge advantage, because knowing Valheim itself is really, really useful, because you recognize all the prefabs, you recognize the different sounds. So when you need something, you kind of get a gut feeling like, oh, I need this. Hey, that boss does that one attack. Maybe I can look at that and kind of adjust the boss, and you can get a sense for exactly what you want to do. So what are you thinking, Dakar? Anything in particular you want to illustrate?
Probably something that would be very useful to people is showing the crypt skeleton chest. So, as JP was saying, you need, like, basically always need scripts to make something extra happen that's not intended in the game. And very, very few things in the game have a when the player is nearby type thing, right? But that is a very, very critical and useful piece of information. Like, how many different quests and game mechanics and whatever can you think of where it involves the player being in a certain spot, standing in a certain spot, running through a certain doorway, you know, whatever it might be. So for the adventure map that Nineby and I made, obviously we needed a lot of that sort of stuff. So one of the big heroes was the Crypt Skeleton Chest, which is this guy. And maybe you've, like, never seen him before, But he spawns in some of the dungeons, the skeleton crypts, that sort of thing. And as you can see, it breaks and something comes out of it. Now, I've modified it so that a workbench comes out of it 10 meters away from it. So that's just an example of something.
I was
Normally,
wondering
a
about that.
skeleton guy pops out. But yeah, let me just spawn it away from you for a sec so it doesn't automatically trigger. If I do that, because you want to have ghost mode on when you're doing these, because with ghost mode it won't trigger. So that's something to know. So I've picked it up here, and now it's like under the ground on my hammer. I'm going to leave it poking through just a bit so we can see where it is. But imagine that's like a little bit lower in the ground, so it's not visible. Now we've got our player walking along here. Oh, I need to actually turn ghost mode off. Players walking along here, and boom, they get close enough, and our workbench spawns. So that is like a very simple and crucial thing to learn if you want to make like cool little mechanics like that. So I'll put it up on the screen again, and just leave it there so people can see. And the component we're using for this is called egg hatch. There's also a different object rather than the crypt skeleton chest. It's like one of the queen's larva eggs that has the same thing. You can use it exactly the same
Yeah, the
way.
ones that spawn the little larva when you get near it or you
Exactly.
destroy it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so we're just completely hijacking that mechanic. And you can see here the three things that I've changed. We've got trigger distance, that I've put to 5, that's meters, and it's measured in a sphere. So if you're putting it underground, you need to account for like, oh, it's 3 meters underground, so I need to have it like probably, at least trigger distance 5, so that when the player gets sort of near it, it's gonna set off. Then we've got egg hatch spawn prefab. That's what we want it to spawn. This would normally be the skeleton or the little lava bug, but we're putting workbench. This can again be whatever you like. One caveat: it will have a random rotation, so you can't decide like which way it's going to face. It won't be like upside down or anything, but it will be, any of the 360 angles on the normal y-axis. And then we've got our spawn offset, and this is a good chance to show coordinates. So if I delete this and let spawn offset, you can see the autocomplete is showing x, z, y. And it might not be super clear, but the x is actually highlighted in yellow. So if I put in a value here, we're going to put in 3, and then I put a comma. Now the z has gone to yellow. So you can kind of use that to be like, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. We're going to put 10, and then we're going to put it in the air as well. We're going to do 3. And it's going to set off immediately, and it's spawned in the air. And now it's going to break because it's in the air and not supported. He says, Come on, Valheim, you can figure it out. Or is it like close enough to the rock to be supported?
Yeah, probably.
But what that was supposed to illustrate is that you can only do one level of field edits deep. This is again another. There we go. It finally collapsed. This is again where you would need EWP and scripts to do something. But like there, I've got the crypt skeleton chest, and I'm telling it to spawn a workbench. What I can't do is tell it to spawn a workbench that I've then made a field edit to. I can't have the workbench have a different health or have a different name or a different radius. I can only do one level deep of field edits. So that's just something to be very aware of.
Yeah, it's like the constraint is more from your character's perspective, whereas when you script, you're more like experiencing the whole world's perspective, if that makes sense. Because like when you make something like Heimdivers or Enigma, it's not, you don't make it by like logging into your character and then adjusting fields in the game. You make it by like adjusting things out of the game that apply the things in the game. So I think that's a good way to put it, Dakar, that when you're doing normal field edits, it's like you can get one layer deep and make customizations, but then if you want something to react to a customization by spawning a customization that makes something customized, that's EWP territory. Like you can't just
Yeah.
so it's like a couple more adjustments or layers above just basic field editing.
Yeah. But you can come up with stuff. There are ways. Like one of the most common things we did for the adventure map, again, the crypt skeleton just egg hatch mechanic just always coming in clutch. We did for the spawn prefab, we're gonna put an area of effect damage. So again, this is something like JP was saying that like you'll have thousands of hours in the game, but until you start doing this, you never like really think about how stuff works. Like when a troll does his is it ground slam? Troll ground slam AoE. So I mean, I barely have to explain it now that you've seen it. You know, you've all been overhead smashed by a troll. This is how it happens. It's a prefab. So I'm telling the chest when it breaks to spawn this troll ground slam, and let's put the spawn offset egg hatch spawn. And you can see a lot of the time here, I'm just typing in like a few letters and then doing tab to get to the thing that I want, which just helps speed it up and always ensure you get the correct spelling and capitals in the right place. That
Good
sort of
habits.
thing. Yeah. So we'll just do 050 again. I don't have ghosts, so let me turn that off and do it again. So now when this breaks, somewhere over here it's doing the troll's damage effect. Now, the damage effect is set completely separate from the visual effect, so you're not going to see anything. But if we, you've got you've not got a
Sorry,
ghost
I was
on, so
trying to
it's
put
triggering.
a hen in the way, so when it explodes, it kills the hen, but I messed up.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put a. Let me put a few wood walls here because I don't know exactly where it is. Let me do that, and then turn off ghost again. There, you can see these wood walls took damage, and you can see they're like the different color now. So that's step one. We've now got a player proximity trigger spawning some damage in an area. But what can we do with that? Well, what if it were to damage a ward that was blocking a door? I.e., the player goes somewhere, they then unlock a door because them triggering the crypt skeleton chest spawned a damage effect where the ward is that the player can't normally reach. This is like hidden in the floor or on a platform high in the sky. It breaks the ward, and then the door that was normally protected by the ward is now open to the player to go through. Like
So it's sort of
that
like you're
and
making a
variations on that
script
idea. Yeah,
inside of the
yeah, this
game
is
world using game objects, which is
exactly,
like
yeah.
crazy, crazy.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff we used a lot of, like that idea and variations of it we used in the adventure map like a lot because yeah, it's one of the kind of few ways we have to make something akin to a script without using scripts.
So earlier, Bungles mentioned wards having some cool things. So now
Mhm.
that you've made a ward, is there anything you want to point out about fields in the ward that you think would be useful to the viewers?
Um, hmm.
Let me read Bungle's comment one
Um,
second. It was earlier. Let's see. He said, Show the peeps some different field edits for ward, like allowing them to be opened or not, chests, doors, item stands, range, circle, etc.
Oh. I wonder if he's talking about specifically like no, it's not in there. I'm not 100% sure what he means by that.
Yeah, me either, to be honest. Mostly because I despise wards. So, actually, no. Did
uh,
I what happens here? Oh no, okay, it's all good, all good. Cause in Enigma, if you place a ward, it basically turns into a bomb and explodes.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that is happening. All right, I forgot to remove that script from this server. Okay, that's a good idea. I guess that's a funny thing
Fun.
I can show them. Yeah. I'm looking at it on my live stream, but I didn't switch the thing over, so. But this isn't, I mean, this is an illustration of scripting. So, I guess I'll show your screen, Dakar, and just keep looking where you're going. But I'll just talk about this because it's related to wards.
Yeah.
But this is basically how you can use something that's already in the game that has a certain functionality to combine that with a script. So here we can see, let's say I'm going to spawn a copper node. Okay, so I'm just going to go spawn rock for, I think it's copper, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we got this big hunkin' copper node right here. And you've seen wards in Valheim before, right? So you can make a ward, and then you can, activate it. And if anything you own gets hit, or any build piece nearby gets hit, the ward's gonna pulse, right? So what this actually is basically a proximity sensor built into the game. So if I were to make a couple of these wards, let's build, I don't know, like 5 of them. And I'm going to activate each one. And then I'm going to start punching. We can see that as I punch them, they vanish. And then they start exploding, right? So what you're seeing are scripts, but they're scripts that are spawning things that are already in the game. And it uses the functionality of the ward as the trigger. So it's kind of like a combination of everything you've seen so far. That's why it's really important that when you get into this, you understand that your actual knowledge of the Valheim game world itself is really useful, because it's going to make you a more effective scripter, and also you'll have a better understanding of where the fields that might be interesting are. Because if you've noticed something in the game yourself before, now you might understand how exactly it works and know where to go look more into it. And so just to be clear, the explosion you saw, it won't, that kind of thing you can adjust. So you just saw it blow up a whole area, but if I had to move it back there, because if I used it too close to like the chests or some beds or something, then nothing would happen and it wouldn't work. So you have a lot of flexibility over that kind of thing with scripting. Scripting is really the ultimate flexibility.
I saw a question from Arby. Can you make a chain of events to change ENV or weather? With fields, you kind of can. Like this chest here, it should now spawn the Moda boss environment.
Yep, I hear the music.
Or Ike there. It's not actually spawning for me.
I think that's
Let me turn
because
the.
of dev commands. We're overriding it with env
I
clear.
just Yeah, I just changed mine.
Oh, no, no, no. It's the thing where you can spawn the boss env zone, but it like immediately vanishes. Because I heard the motor
Ah,
music, like it definitely showed up, so I heard it, but then it just went away. So
yeah, this again is another issue of only one layer deep fields. You can spawn the event zone, but you need to have changed the field on it to give it a long time destruction. Like there, that should have spawned the Ike there one. Let's see if it's. It does say it's here.
I hear the music, but I think when you have your env, if you have like a debug environment, it'll override that,
It's,
so you won't
I did.
see.
I did reset it. It should.
Yeah, that's funny. Because I hear it, so I
Maybe
hear
it.
the music.
Yeah. Maybe it's just being removed straight away. Yeah, I can see it's not even here anymore. So yeah, kind of is the answer, but not really. Is there any other way you could do that?
So let's see. Mayo said
Oh, you
something.
can do. Okay,
So I'll
right.
just ask them to maybe explain this more. But Mayo said, "Have you used the ward AOE to apply effects to players?" So,
That's exactly what I was just going to show. Funnily enough,
oh,
because one of the things we use in the adventure map as well for this sort of like kind of the same sort of reason, or the reason I was thinking of with changing wind DNB, to give players a motor wind boost. So you can use a bunch of different objects have the effect area component, one of which is the ward guardstone. So again, we're going to do F equals effect area, status effect, and then these are all the things that you like see in the top left, like freezing. There are some places with like a full list of these to know what they all are. And I think I'm gonna
like
have to look at it
poison,
because I can't remember.
freezing, tar, fire,
Yeah,
burning, all that.
can't remember what the motor one is called. It's because it's like GP motor or something. But I can look on this list. GP underscore motor. So I can grab that and put it in there. And now
I got
we
motor.
should have motor buff. Yeah, I had to pick it up and put it down. So again, you see another example of that. And it should stay at this 5 meters because we're in the quote-unquote effect area of the ward. But if I go further away, there you can see it started to tick down now. But if I go
That's
back
really
into the
cool.
effect area,
I did
up to
not
5
know
again.
you could apply status through just the player being in range of the ward. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you guys just taught me something. That's really useful. There's definitely situations where I would do that. Like, because basically I could use Tard and then make a ward that tars everything nearby that gets near it to,
Yep.
like, attrit an area or block it. You could make
Slimy
something...
dungeon.
Yeah, or you could make something that appears so hot that just getting near it bursts you into flames, like that is a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that one can do. Oh, and that's a good point actually. So, one of the ways you can browse these things in game, as you saw earlier, is by using the existing console and then kind of tabbing through the results. So it's actually possible to browse through all of the game objects by typing the vanilla command spawn, and then you can tab through everything, right? So that tabbing functionality exists in many places. And another thing you can do, if, for example, let's say you were just in the situation that Dakar was in, where you needed to find the status. In his case, he was typing the field entry, so it doesn't really make sense to also use the command to then do it, because you'd have to get rid of what he was typing. But you can go set status, right? Or what is it? Add status? Yeah, add status. and then do the same thing, just space, and now I get a list of every status effect in the game. Adrenaline rush, burning, demister, freezing, all the boss powers, immobilized, etc., etc., etc. So there's actually quite a lot of them. And what Dakar and Mayo basically just taught us is that you can add these as an AoE to a ward. So anything in this list, all of the boss powers, being immobilized, any of these things, healing, you can add it to the ward, which is really, really freaking cool, to be honest. I'm already like, damn, how can I use that? I had no idea that was a thing.
There's a few caveats. Not everything properly works. There's some things that would normally require other information. So like
Yeah,
some of
it
the damage
disappears
stuff, like
instantly.
poison. Yeah, like poison is the way it works is something like it's always the amount of damage over 5 seconds, and because there's no damage attached to it, because when it's not being spawned by a monster attack or anything that normally would happen, it just the effect appears, but it doesn't do any damage. So there's a few things like that you'll have to experiment and find out. The other thing is like the range at which this happens is like tied to the specific object that the effect area comes from, which is just kind of something you have to experiment and work out. I have a little list on my Discord, but like for example, some of the torches, what's the proper name for them? Standing green burning torch, things like this, they will have a really small effect area, like 5 meters or 2 meters, whereas the ward is more like 30.
So you can do the
yeah, it's
same
worth.
thing with them as well. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's the things that normally give like fire, from being near something warm. I don't know why ward gives it, because I don't think that normally gives you any kind of status. But bed can give it. Yeah, a few things.
Let's see, I'm trying to think of other things. So Nim Toast Hater said, sounds like a fun way to recreate shrines from Diablo 2. And I will go on a short little rant here, because that is exactly what you should be doing. The way this all works is you get inspired for something and you attempt to make it, or you're inspired by a mechanic in another game and you attempt to make it happen in Valheim. So exactly what you just said, making the shrines you thought were cool from Diablo 2, that is the exact kind of path you want to follow. Enigma, my project, and I'll ask Dakar about his in a second, but my project is literally that. I play old video games because I think new games are shit that just try and rob you of your money, while old games were actual games that try to be a game, okay? I understand that's an opinion, but that is how I feel. I study old games, and then I find things I really enjoy about those games, and I think, how could I put that in Valheim? How can I make that part of the Enigma experience? So there's a lot of things in Enigma that are literally from other games. Like if you've played old school RuneScape, it has a Slayer skill that I really loved, because in RuneScape, there's this skill called Slayer and this really big world. And if the world's just really big, you don't really have much reason to go explore it necessarily, right? Well, Slayer tells you, go kill 100 of these in that mountain over there. And then you go do it, and then you come back, and it's like, all right, now go kill 30 of these in that hellhole way over there on the other side of the world. And basically, they're just kind of fetch quests, pretty much, but it's done in a way that sends you all around the world. And I thought that was incredible. Why not add something like that to Valheim, so that you get sent on tasks around the world to kill things in certain situations with certain pieces of armor? So I got a whole scripted Slayer skill made in Enigma that's completely based on old school RuneScape, to the point where the Slayer Master in Enigma is called Konar, who is one of the Slayer Masters in RuneScape. So I just wanted to get at that point because this is something really critical. You're going to find that you play other games and you're like, hey, why don't I try making this? I could make this. And that is something I full heartedly encourage you to do. Some people might be like, oh, come up with your own idea. Nah, screw that. If you feel inspired, do it. It doesn't matter if it's your idea, someone else's, or not. Like, just if you have the inspiration, try it. You're going to learn a lot. And I've found so much joy myself out of just playing these old games, looking at their mechanics, and then applying them to the project that I run for Valheim called Enigma Mode. The same thing happened to the dungeons. I played games like Daggerfall and Ultima, these old school games that have like dungeon crawling elements, but they're so simple that they had to use a bunch of tricks. And so I pay attention to those tricks, and then I copy the trick, and then I put it in Valheim, right? So that works really well, and I just wanted to interrupt that for a bit to give you some encouragement that that's the exact kind of thing you want to do. And if you find that you're in that habit, before you know it, you're going to be scripting all day, and you're going to have trouble stopping. That's how it works. You got the EWP bug.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about, like, I know your experience with the adventure map was, I would say it's different because it was more planned, at least more planned than Enigma was for me. But do you want to mention anything maybe you were inspired by in another game that you brought in? Is there anything like that that you've had a relevant experience with, Takar?
Oh, almost everything. Like if you if you took out everything in the adventure map that was inspired by something else, there'd probably be nothing left. Um, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. Often the best way to learn is like trying to copy something else or replicate it. Um, you'll certainly learn a lot, and there's also the benefit of treading a path already trodden is that people have been there and they've made the mistakes and found the problems and whatever. So if you do struggle at an early stage, it's normally easy to find like resources that are going to help you or someone else that's been there before. And I mean, there's a lot of the adventure map that wasn't like necessarily sort of planned. There was a lot that was kind of like something goes here type stuff where we knew something needed to be in this section or that section was going to need a certain mechanic or whatever, but there were times where we had no idea what that was going to be, and it's only through experimenting with different fields and coming up with ideas, and sometimes you're creating the wackiest stuff, and you're in the back of your head you're like, I'm never going to use this, I'm wasting time here, but like almost inevitably you'll find something else that combos with it perfectly, and you're like, oh, now I know, now I have the plan, or now I have like a great new idea for this build or location. So yeah, experimenting, like 100% worth doing. And then with the EWP stuff, like Heimdivers started just because that was my vehicle to learn EWP. It was for the same kind of reasons. Like, let me not have to think creatively about anything. I'm just gonna try and copy this thing. And it just started with, I'm throwing a smoke bomb and I'm gonna make it spawn a bunch of stuff, like damage effects, like the troll AoE I was showing earlier, and some VFX to make explosions and all of this. And yeah, it was purely just like something fairly simple, purely inspired by what I was playing at the time, and I did that, kind of got the hang of it, did a few more of the same variations on the same ideas, and then it was like the next stage of learning. Well, let me pick the next Helldivers mechanic to see if I can figure out how to translate that into Valheim, make the EWP version of that. And basically I just didn't stop because I got carried away, and
Yeah,
it
it's so
became a problem
fun.
at that point. Yeah, exactly. You get the bug. Um,
And I guess that's
but it's
something like
the same with field
go on.
editing too. Like once you start finding cool stuff, it's really exciting and really fun. And you're gonna have those moments where, you're in the shower and you're like, how does the catapult work? And then you going into Valheim, spawn object catapult, F equals, and like, oh, what are all these numbers? What do they mean? Like, let me try changing them all to 100 and see what happens. It's great fun. Um, yeah, love it.
I think that's a great example of how it sort of becomes like your way to play Valheim. And from what I found
Yes.
at least, is that we kind of need kind of like some constraints to work within to feel sort of comfortable. So like on one hand, working with EWP and these kind of things, you have to learn the constraints of the tools, right? But on the other hand, it's fun. So it's kind of like it doesn't really feel like work if you're able to not really think about the grand picture of things and all the time that you have to spend. Like if when I started working on Enigma, if someone was like, "Hey, JP, you're gonna spend like the next 3,000 hours of your time on the computer working on this one mod pack for a game you don't own," and I would be like, "That sounds like a lot of work that won't really result in money, right?" But I didn't think about it that way. I just had so much fun making the experience, and then over time, I was like, why the hell aren't more people doing this? This is insane. It's incredible. And then you go to find out like, oh, people don't know this is possible, and like you try and explain it to them, and they're like, "Fuck you, vanilla ball, no, 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 ah!" And it's like, oh, damn. There's this like culture that gets in the way of the understanding of what is possible with this incredible game, right? So that's why like now my journey or goal or whatever is to really help more people know that this is possible, because I think that projects like the adventure map that Dakar has made with 9byte, and projects like mine, Enigma Mode, and projects like the adventure maps, the things on Verdant Ascent, and the Legends Rift, all these other projects, I think these are really just the beginning, and maybe even little compared to what will happen in the long run with Valheim once the masses understand that this stuff is possible, and not just that, but view Valheim as a game where they're not going to get anything more from Iron Gate, right? So 1.0 will come out at some point, and from that point, I'm hoping more people, just general, the players themselves, will be more interested in these custom projects and everything. But ultimately, the more of us make the projects and the more skilled we get at using these things and explaining them and sharing them, then the more awesome projects we're going to have to play and the crazier things people are going to do in the Valheim community. And maybe one day we could even inspire Iron Gate to look at the game they've made in a different way. Like, who knows? Things can change over time. But I think that this really is the future of Valheim. It's not just mods that require a download. It's this notion of a server that is crossplay compatible that anybody can join, but you get something very different than the normal Valheim experience. You get an experience built as if Valheim was a game engine, not a survival crafter, right? And that's essentially what Heimdivers is. That's what Enigma is. These are EWP projects, right, that are showing a way to view Valheim as a game design engine, not just a game to play. But this is very foreign for people. It's not something people are very comfortable with, that they're used to. So I believe it's very important for all of us to talk a lot about it, share openly, show people how to do that. And I'm really grateful for Dakar, all your work. You've been a big inspiration to me personally. And one of the reasons I did Enigma Mode the way I did is because I saw what you guys had done with the adventure map. And I was just like, damn, they made it so anybody with vanilla can download it and play it. Like, that's so freaking cool. And then I was like, what if I take it a step further and I make it so it doesn't even care what map you have. It's just rules that you can play on any map. You know what I mean? And that's how Enigma evolved. But without Dakar's teaching and his help and all his participations in all these live streams, I definitely would not be able to help teach people about EWP today. So I really want to thank you, Dakar. It's been wonderful. All the things you've helped with, not just for me, but also for the community. You do really awesome stuff, and you really deserve all the respect the community has for you. Just putting that out
Hey,
there.
it's my pleasure. I'm here to help, you know. And what I want to, you know, reiterate is to like anyone who's watching who's never done this before, it's very easy. You don't need any technical knowledge. Like Alvi showed, we're just typing in like a few words, okay? And when I started this, I didn't know any of it. I was completely brand new to all of it. So it's now is the best time to start. And the more people that get involved, the better, because people are going to come up with some crazy stuff, like you say. Like we'll look back and these will be child's play in comparison to what people come up with. So yeah, get out there, have fun, experiment, and figure out things about Valheim that you never knew before.
Yeah, and then tell us so we don't have to figure them out the hard way. So for those of you watching, if any of you want to learn more about Expand World Prefabs, which came up a couple times, I actually have a course that's designed for beginners on YouTube. It's completely free. Right now it's got like 24 episodes, something like that. They're all like 10 minutes each. They assume that you start off with no understanding of these things. You don't know about modding. You just know a little bit about Valheim. So if you want to get more into the depth of that, if you have the time for it, because again, like scripting is it's something that is so much more rewarding than you realize when you start getting into it. It's very easy to think that, oh, it's just like you're making mods or whatever, but it takes your game playing experience from like, oh, I'm just playing a game, maybe I'm wasting time, whatever, to like, I'm not just playing a game, I'm actually practicing game design. I'm working with components and understanding the logic of how the game works and using that logic to accomplish goals and looking at player psychology, getting experience watching players do something with what we've done. And that is so rewarding. It answers what is, from my perspective, the biggest problem with Valheim is that you can build something incredible, but it just doesn't feel right unless there's actually incredible things happening in the building. There has to be that connection. There has to be, you have to witness other people using the building. You have to see the building protect you from monsters because of a design element that you integrated. These are the moments that make Valheim so powerful. And through scripting and through all of your own situations, you can bring out these moments more for other people. So it's really worth it from my perspective. I've seen a lot of things in my life. I've traveled. I've lived in many different cultures and countries. And the most meaningful thing I've ever done fulfillment-wise is learn how to script Valheim. As a person who loves developing and wants to study game development, it's just been so meaningful. That's why I've been able to work on Enigma regularly for, at this point, over a year, every day of my life, working on a project, putting thousands of hours into it. Like, I never did that before. I've never written a book. I've never worked on one thing. I've never been organized enough to. But with Expand World Prefabs, I didn't need to, because it gives you a way to play the game that makes you make stuff, and it enhances your creativity, gives you a chance to interact with other people who use Valheim in this way. And Valheim really is special, and I think that it can be a catalyst for communities. We just kind of have to take the reins from Iron Gate and start really showing how special the game is. And I think that we are well equipped with things like Expand World Prefabs and Yair's tools and all the community effort from everybody. So with that, I'm done with my ranting. Is there anything anyone else wants to ask or anything you want to say, Dakar, before we finish up?
Firework berry bush.
Oh my god, that's so cool. And the skeleton
Yeah.
falling out of the sky.
This was one of the
That's too
early
funny.
classics of when Yara first dropped field editing. It's like, what can we mess around with? This was kind of one of the first popular things.
I would like to formally apologize to Hal. I blew up his nice rock. He had decorated this area, as you can see, and I kind of messed it all up, so he came here.
For anyone who really wants to get into this, you can check out Hal's website, valheimtools.stream. Really useful. Check out the wiki section there. It lists every single component, every single field. You can see what creatures have all of them. You can see what the default values for every creature is. So you want to see, oh, maybe I want to make the cultist attack 20% faster. You can go there, see what the attack speed is, increase it by 20%. Yeah, very useful website.
Also
super
useful
useful.
for
Valheim
blueprints.
Tools stream. Yeah.
And that's also something, the course that I have on EWP, it covers all the foundational stuff that you need, like the access to tools. So Hal actually has two incredibly useful things for those of you who are interested in Expand World prefabs and learning. He has the tool that you just saw, which allows you to look up all the components and also create blueprints out of, like, basically EWP blueprints out of existing blueprints. And then, in addition to that, he has this, what are they called? Schema, that's it. It's a schema for Visual Studio and Sublime Text. And if you noticed earlier, when I was actually in Sublime here, right? I can, let me just cancel that real quick. I can do something like this, right? Type prefab, and then it will autocomplete things, right? So it's not working because I'm in a data file, but Haloa made a system that does all of those auto completions using the stuff in Valheim. This is huge. It makes it so that you can script much faster because you don't have to worry about spelling something wrong. You just have to remember the first couple letters of the prefab name, and then it can auto-complete from all of the objects, all of the fields, all of the components in Valheim. Incredibly powerful once you've been working with data and scripting and you're at that point where, you know, you could you could use not having to redo that every single time you do anything. And with that, so there is one more thing actually before I end that Mayo brought up, and I think he brings this up. It might be too deep for us to actually get into, but do you want to explain, Dakar, why it is that Mayo is saying we should talk about the offering bowl?
The offering ball. Okay, yeah. Very useful. So, offering bowl to most people is boss altars, where you go to donate 3 deer heads to summon Eikthyr or 5 Yag dolls, etc. All of those are the offering bowl component, and the reason that it's very useful, if I actually need, let me just pretend to do it by doing Object F, even though there's nothing here. And I can show you what's in Offering Bowl. The reason it's so useful is all of the different fields in here are almost everything that happens when you summon a boss, we can mess with. So you can see just from the complete all of the sort of text here that normally says you offered the wrong thing or you don't have enough of them. We can change all of that. We can change boss items you see there, which is what you have to donate. So the deer heads, for example. Boss prefab. This is the actual boss. So we can change what it spawns, but it doesn't have to be a boss or a creature. It can be a health potion. So the reason this is really useful is you can make any offering bowl into basically a shop, because you can change what the person needs to give, what the person gets, and all of the text. And that's all you need. Do I have... what is my shop called? No. No. Is it Valpal? Valpal store. There we go. So this is like a shop type building I made for an EWP kind of script where you can buy things. So you can see these you might recognize as the Eikthyr altars. There's 3 of them sort of stacked around. And when I hover over this, it says buy Valball, 100 coins. Now this is not going to work properly. I already know it's not going to work properly because I need scripts, but we'll do it anyway. If I put the coins in there, you can see I'm now going to press 4. It does take the coins. And it's not actually going to give me a Val Ball because that's where scripts are reacting to what's happening now. But you can see that it takes the coins rather than deer trophies. And Eikthyr also did not spawn because I've told it to spawn something else. But maybe if I try and pay with shield, you can see it saying, Professor Oak, you can't pay with that. And, this is all stuff that's working. All of this is no scripts required because this is all field edits within this offering bowl component. You see here, there's another option here and another option here. So this is like a shop with 3 different things you can buy. So it needs 3 altars. So yeah, you can basically make sort of fully vanilla friendly custom shops like this using offering bowl. I'm sure that's probably caught some people's attention, so I will just explain how to do it quickly. For this, you're going to need to hammer location. You can also you need Infinity Hammer to do that, so you can also do spawn _ location. So you do this, and you're going to spawn your Eikthyr or whatever. You would spawn that, and then after you've spawned it, you would then go over, look at it, and then you do your object. The reason it's a bit different is because all of this is a location rather than a prefab. So it's just a slightly different process. But once you spawned it, you just do the object edits as normal. You do your object, F equals offering bowl somewhere, he gets it right. And then, yeah, you can change the name, change the boss item. I think also the amount is one of them. It probably is. You can also change like how far away the boss spawns, all of this type stuff. Wrong offer text. Is it boss items? That's how many. So boss item is what it actually needs, and then boss items is how many. I think there's a long guide on the VWE Discord with all of this sort of stuff in it as well. If anyone wants to like deeply look into offering bowl shop stuff.
So Aaron asked, could you use the trader mechanics in UI in a similar way?
Unfortunately, no. The whole like trader menu and all of that stuff is like somewhere else.
Which is why this is so special.
Yeah. It seems bizarre. Like of all the things we can change, like some stuff that would never normally change under any circumstance, like why is this changeable? We can change, and then the shop, which you kind of think would change, we can't. So yeah, if I do, what is it, vendor? What is his name? Trader? No. Is it just Haldor? It is just Haldor. So his component is trader. In there is mainly stuff to do with how far away he stands up, sits down, says hello, all of that sort of stuff. Um,
So
so
is that
might be useful, kind of
is it,
useful for like NPC type stuff. Like if I put his stand range 0, he should always sit. Like no matter how close I get to him, he's always sitting. Whereas if I do a stand range 100, he's always going to be stood up. Like, even if I walk really far away, he never sits down. So that's kind of useful. But yeah, you can't do shop stuff, unfortunately.
so I guess that means the shop part itself is just it's handled because Halder, as far as the server is concerned, like Halder doesn't okay, like from the player's perspective, Halder has something he's selling the player, but those things are created when the player buys them, right? So actually, Halder, from the server's perspective, is just a prefab. He doesn't have an inventory of stuff to sell. It's handled by the computer, right? Or sorry, the client you're playing on is what kind of determines, okay, when I interact with Halder, maybe some kind of RPC call goes to the player or something, and then you see the actual store. It compares it to your keys, and then you see what is available based on
Yeah,
that.
it's probably like a very similar system to like the player crafting menu. It's just instead of paying wood and stone to craft a hammer, you're paying 100 coins to craft a strength belt or whatever it is. Um, and yeah, we can't change anything on the crafting menu or really anything like player inventory type stuff,
Yeah, for the most part.
or
That's
even
like,
player.
yeah,
Um,
you can kind of
for one
imagine
of the
that.
reasons, Jake.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. You can go.
Um, but yeah, for one of the reasons you were saying earlier, where you were saying that when a data change is made, it reloads the object. So that's one of the reasons we can't do stuff to the player, because if we make a data change to the player, it's going to reload the player, and the game then loses connection between like you as the controlling object and your player character. So you
Black
end up with
screen.
just looking at a black screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, like I would love it if we could, because aside from that, we could make all the same changes, or not all, but a lot of the same changes that we make to creatures to the player. Like we can make you run faster, jump higher, better, faster, stronger. But
Problem is, it
yeah,
just disconnects you.
unfortunately, yeah.
So, I know we'll have to end this soon, but Mayo has another question
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is specific for Dakar. How were the NPCs on the adventure map done? Is it random speak?
Um, trying to think which. Oh, I wonder if. Do you mean the ones where you see what they're saying when you walk up to them?
I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah, because in the adventure map, like when you get near and they'll like have some text above them. You have those like kind of
Yeah,
exclamation marks, right?
yeah. I will show you. So we'll say this is our NPC. And then what we're doing is we are taking an object that has some kind of hover text. So you see this like tool shelf. This is my go-to. You hover over it, it says tool shelf. We build a nice. Oh god, I've got Gizmo on like a million, so it takes forever to rotate. Uh, I won't do this very neatly, but in the adventure map, it's done quite a lot more neatly than this. But we make like a little cage of these. Oh no, he's escaping. Get back in there. And then we use object f equals is it piece? one of the things you'll find is that lots of different components have name in them. Piece has name, humanoid has name, guardstone has name, bunch of things have name, but only one of them really applies, and you have to kind of remember which one it is. Hello there. Oh, one tip for text. If your text has a space in it, you have to use quotation marks. You won't see the quotation marks, but you just have to do that. Okay, that is the correct one. And this would probably be another thing where it doesn't show up correctly for JP unless I pick it up and put it back down again. But you can see now it says hello there. And then we do the same trick from earlier. That we use wear and tear, new, VFX, Odin. Pick it up, put it down. It didn't go invisible. Why not?
He escaped.
Why did this not go invisible? Okay, but you would make it invisible. Do I have my tool? I do have my tool. There we go. I have a custom-made tool that can just make stuff invisible. But yeah, you basically make a cage or block the monster in with objects that have a hover text. Edit the hover text to say whatever you want, and then make them invisible. That's how we did kind of proximity creature speech. And pretty much any text field like creature name, hover text, any of this type of stuff, try doing text formatting on it, because a lot of the times it will work even when it kind of really shouldn't. So if we do it on the same one. If I go back to this, here's my hello there. I can change, for
color
example,
red or something.
Size. Yeah, exactly. I can change the color. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how we did that. And yeah, this is one of the best pieces I've found for it, just because it's nice and square and flat. Like, the collision is predictable. You can take it and shove it like into the ground so that the player doesn't really even collide with it. If I do something like that. And then, this is you found something in the dirt, or, you found a key in the bushes, or whatever it might be.
That's really funny. It's so cool too how, like, sometimes I know something's possible logically, but then when I see you actually do it in game, or I see an example, it's like now my brain can recall that without thinking about it as much. So it feels more inspiring. Makes sense? Do you find that as well?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely been times where, like, 9byte or I would have messaged each other like, "Oh, I found this thing," But even if we give like a crude example, it's so hard to kind of communicate what it is, what it might do, what it might mean, without actually kind of like building a mock-up,
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, this is, again, it's one of those things where, like, early on, I stumbled upon, I can change the name of this tool shelf and it appears. But then it's only like maybe months later that I'm like, hang on a minute, I can make these invisible and you can still see the text. I can now do like floating text. Sometimes it is just letting it stew in the noodle and then eventually putting two and two together. Or, finding like the multiple field edits that work together, like invisibility and text, or portal activation range and invisibility, all that sort of stuff.
Wonderful. All right, so we've been going for 2 hours, and I've been in the car for like 2 hours and a half or something like that. So we're gonna finish up, and for any of you watching, Dakar, how can they find more about you? What are you working on? Do you want to tell them a bit about Heim Divers, that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, I'm mostly working on Heimdiver stuff. You'll see more of that at Valcon and all the other sort of wonderful servers that you can play on. So yeah, you'll be able to experience it for yourself. Um, you can check out my Discord. You can come there, ask any questions about any of this stuff, any field editing, any EWP, any of that type of stuff. Don't be afraid to ask anything. It doesn't matter, how beginner it sounds. Everyone was beginner. Don't be afraid to get involved. And yeah, that's about it, really.
Good stuff. All right, everybody. So, if you have been watching, this stream has been held to help promote Valcon. Valcon is a fan-led online convention. We have lots of different ways that you can participate, whether you have builds you want to submit, whether you want to join servers to play on, whether you want to create content for the actual live stream event. I encourage you to learn more about it by looking on YouTube for the Valcon YouTube channel. You can find it in the description of this live stream. Not at the moment because I haven't put it there, but I will if you're watching the VOD to this point. It's already there. And I'm really excited about it, to be honest. Last year, Valcon was more focused on the content creators, whereas this year, we've added a whole Hype Week section, so you'll be able to play on Dakar's project, Heimdivers, and you're also going to see a bunch of other really awesome custom and vanilla and modded PvE, PvP, all sorts of different Valheim experiences. So make sure to stay subscribed to the Valcon YouTube channel to stay up to date about that. But if you just want to participate, then on 11th of April, Hype Week begins. Okay, so we're going to have a live stream, and you're going to see Dakar's trailer for Heimdivers. You're going to see a bunch of other trailers for some really awesome worlds as well. And then you're going to get the whole week to just play on whatever one you want. I'm going to be visiting a bunch of different servers. I'm going to be playing on Left Off server. I'm really excited. It's going to be awesome. As you can see on the screen, Valcon will be happening from the 17th to the 19th. That's the actual live stream event. But Hype Week, when you get to play on these new servers, that will start on April 11th. So it's around 6 days before the live stream. And with that, I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay?